So we are about 3 months into 2042 and aiming doesn't feel any better now than it did at launch. I'm not entirely sure when it's going to get fixed. The next update is a month away, early March I believe. So in the meantime, I thought I'd provide you guys with a handful of tips to improve your aim, accuracy and ways to maximize aim assist. Whether you're playing 2042 or not, most of these tips and techniques can be transferred over to other games, so do stick around and you may pick up a trick or two. If you guys like this content, make sure to sub to the channel and give the video a thumbs up. So starting off with the very basics, you should always be moving while shooting. Whether you're hip firing or aiming down sight, the left stick should always be in play during a gunfight. The main benefit of moving is that you'll receive additional aim assist called rotational aim assist. This helps you better track plays and stay on target by rotating your camera towards the player. Most games have this nowadays, but the strength and functionality may differ from game to game. In the case of 2042, rotational aim assist is on the weaker side of the spectrum and only works when both sticks are in play. Moving alone won't give you any rotational aim assist, the right stick has to be moving as well. Even if it's just for a brief moment, the slightest of nudges will kickstart the rotation. In comparison, Apex and Warzone don't require the right stick to be active and can be done with the left stick alone. Besides helping you stay on target, moving also makes you a more difficult target to hit. So try moving with the player, and once you get the hang of that, gradually work your way into strafing back and forth. The more unpredictable you can be, the better and the harder you'll make it for your opponents to hit you. One thing to keep in mind though is there is a spread penalty for moving while shooting, so despite the fact that moving is essential for aiming with a controller, some of those gains are going to be offset by the spread increase. So using a weapon with minimal spread is going to be crucial for staying on target, and if you want to know which ones to pick or which weapons to avoid, then you can go over to SimGG where you can find detailed stats on every weapon in 2042. So to sum things up, try not to stand still during a gunfight unless you're sniping, or else you miss out on that extra bit of rotational aim assist. Another thing you should avoid doing is maxing out your stick. In 2042, whenever you reach the maximum point of input, that's when your thumbstick hits the edges, you don't receive any aim assist. The best way to describe it is, imagine there's an outer dead zone, which in this case is the light blue circle around the edges, and whenever you push a stick into that area, aim assist completely disappears and only turns back on when you exit that area. There are benefits to having it this way, of course. It lets you bypass resistance and prioritize targets more easily, but for the majority of players it can be more harmful than not. Especially if you're using a low sensitivity, you're going to be far more prone to maxing out your stick and entering that dead zone. For instance, tracking moving targets will likely require you to max out your stick in order to stay on target, and not having aim assist present at that time will likely result in you overshooting or undershooting the target. This rule applies to all sensitivities, by the way. Even on the slowest sense possible, you get no aim assist when you enter the outer dead zone, but pushing 75% of the way on max sense does give you aim assist. So the speed at which you travel doesn't necessarily matter, but the way you aim with your thumbstick does. This may explain why some players feel no aim assist in 2042, whereas others who perhaps use a higher sensitivity, who aren't extending their sticks out as much, aren't as affected. That said, I believe Battlefield 5's aim assist functioned in a very similar way, but I've not done any testing over there. Apex and Warzone don't use a dead zone for aim assist, so if you are playing those games, you can go without this advice. So to sum things up, try not to pull your stick too far in any direction, otherwise you'll lose out on aim assist and possibly miss the target. If you're getting these inconsistencies with aim assist quite frequently, then you may want to reconsider your sensitivity or ask DICE for an option that lets you turn off the outer dead zone in the settings. Interestingly enough, another scenario where you may not receive any aim assist is when you're near smoke. I'm assuming it's there to prevent concealed players from being snapped onto through the smoke, which I do agree with by the way, but the downside is even the slightest bit of grey on your screen has the same effect, so try not to stand anywhere near a smoke grenade during a gunfight to give yourself the best chance of winning. It's no secret that 2042 demands a bit more tracking skill compared to previous titles. The slightly longer time to kill, the slightly harsher damage drop off, suppressors increase in time to kill, armor increase in survivability, and players moving a fraction faster all contribute to this one way or another. So if you're finding it hard to track players and you want to reduce your chances of maxing out, cutting down the time to kill and the time it takes to track is the best way to go about it. So try not to use a suppressor, as the extra bullet to kill puts you at a massive disadvantage, especially when you encounter someone with armor, and at the same time is unlikely to keep you off the minimap because of all the spotting spam. Apart from the setup, your choice of weapon plays a massive role too, so try not to use a slow time to kill weapon and stick to the M5s, K30s and the MP9s. Alternatively, you can always just eliminate tracking entirely by just picking up a sniper until you feel aim assist is in a better spot. There's no such thing as a perfect sensitivity that works for all, but you can be using a very bad sensitivity, or in other words, a suboptimal sensitivity for your playstyle. Unlike mouse and keyboard, you can't just push your stick faster in the hopes of moving substantially faster in game. There's an acceleration curve and a cap on how fast you can go, which is directly tied to your sensitivity. So it doesn't matter how responsive you are, a low sensitivity will always limit your reaction time and capabilities. For instance, let's say you're an aggressive player that likes to target switch by flicking. A slow sensitivity will prevent you from doing so effectively, and therefore that sensitivity would be considered bad. So try to pick a sensitivity that complements your playstyle and perhaps take the game mode into consideration too. VR games are far more forgiving since you're less likely to encounter multiple enemies at once, whereas in 128 players breakthrough, where you have multiple parties looking at you all at once, isn't so forgiving. So do keep that in mind, and the perfect sensitivity in one game isn't necessarily going to be perfect for another game. The perfect combination doesn't exist either, but I wouldn't recommend having a massive disparity between hipfire and ADS. Matching both sensitivities has its benefits and makes it easier to master one speed instead of two different speeds, but more recently I've adopted a best of both worlds approach, that being more emphasis on fine aim when ADSing while still maintaining the ability to react fast in hipfire. So to be more specific, my ADS speed is 50% of my hipfire speed, and if you want to know why that's 70% in 2042, I've explained it all in my previous video, which you can find in the top right hand corner. Once you found your perfect sensitivity, try sticking to it for at least a few weeks to give yourself enough time to get used to it. Warming up for 5 minutes before jumping into a game is a great way of practicing, and if you're interested in trying out No Name's Aim Trainer, you can do so by going to the host tab in Portal and type in the experience code in the right hand corner. Here you can work on your weaknesses. For example, one of mine is flicking to the left. I just find that pushing my thumb away from my hand feels slightly more unnatural compared to pushing my thumb towards my hand and flicking to the right. So identifying and working on those little weaknesses will make you a lot more consistent and improve your aim in the long run. So that's all I've got for you guys today. Thanks for watching and take care.